Hey YouTube, this is Elvis coming at you again with another question I was asked by one of my students. This question has been kind of long time running because I've been answering other questions that I thought were, I guess, pertinent, but this question keeps coming up over and over. The question is asked, what is the best zero-turn lawnmower someone should start out with? And I guess one of the reasons I didn't answer the question so quickly is because I wanted to give it some thought. And I like to speak from my experience as opposed to just kind of talking. Aside from answering that question, or instead of answering that question, what is the best lawnmower or zero turn that a beginner property preservation person might want to consider, the real question is, has nothing to do with the zero turn lawnmower. Now, before some pros with professional lawn care businesses come and start giving me a whole lot of pushback, let me explain. I started out with a zero turn made by Troy-Bilt. I cut personally over 6,000 properties. When I say properties, lots that are on average 80 wide by 150 deep. From 2005 until 2011 or 12, I cut over 8,000, about between 6, 7, let's just call it on the low end, 5,000 properties, right? With this non-commercial zero-turn mower. And the only thing that I ever had to replace on it was the battery. I went through maybe, I don't know, several thousand startups and turn-offs and startups and turn-offs. And before I purchased it, the lawn care person was warning me that based on the number of yards that I was doing, which was about 15 yards per day, they said definitely you need a Skag or an Exmark or a higher end commercial deck mower or I'm gonna burn it up. I knew me, and I know what type of operator I am. Remember I told you I had a Makita drill motor since age 17. I still have it. I take care of my tools, much like a doctor would take care of his tools or a dentist or her tools. I take care of my tools. I understand that my tools are my bread and butter. That's how I earn my living. So I care for my stuff. My personal pickup truck. On my personal pickup truck, I've hit 410,000 miles on it. It depends on the operator. It has nothing to do with the zero turn. You can have a Skag, which is kind of top of the line of zero turns, or you can have an Exmark, which is another top of the line. But the Skag is like top of the line, and then you have Exmark. This is from my personal experience and my professional opinion. Skags are like number one. Exmarks are just below it. Those are some really expensive and nice mowers, right? However, it's not the mower, it's the operator. I mentioned my truck having 410,000 miles on it, right? Some people have the same year, make, and model truck that I have, and they were only able to get 150,000 miles. 150,000 miles to that of 410,000 miles. It has everything to do with the operator. So let me show you a lawnmower that I think would be an excellent choice for starting out doing property preservation work without you having to make a huge investment. So let's take a look. All right, here we have a Craftsman, a Z5800. It's a beautiful mower. It's a beautiful piece of machinery. And so it has some features on it that I just want to bring to your attention. All right, so let's take a couple of examples. Let's start with the motor. When I'm choosing a vehicle for going in the field and performing property preservation services, I'm not looking so much for the brand like Chevy or GMC or Silverado or Ram or Dodge or Dodge Ram. I'm looking for the motor. I want a motor that's going to stand the test of 200 startups per day, because that's the type of volume that you can get to do when you're doing property preservation. This motor, this Kohler 7000 series 24 horsepower motor, this is a beautiful motor. Forget about the fact that it's Craftsman. I'm not concerned about it being a Craftsman. I'm concerned about the heart. And in this case, the heart is what we're looking for. You have a good heart and good lungs, you have a healthy person. You want a piece of machine that has a good motor and a good transmission. That's what we're looking for. Take a look at this deck. The deck is considered this guy here. You see the round deck, how it's rounded? How it's rounded like this? That's considered a non-commercial in the lawn care business industry. Now, this is not always and factually, but a rounded deck typically indicates a non-commercial mower for high industrial use, right? I'm gonna show you the difference of a different lawnmower. See this deck? This deck is also rounded. It's rounded, right? But you see how heavier duty this deck is? That's why I say the shape of it is not necessarily the point to make a difference between, but we're talking about the difference in the heavy dutiness. See how this has big brackets, heavy duty? This is a heavy duty deck, right? This deck is heavy duty. This is considered designed for commercial grade, going through a lot of rough terrain, as opposed to this deck. This deck is softer. It's not as heavy duty as the orange lawnmower. The orange lawnmower has a heavier deck. This is more of a person who's not doing commercial work, so they say, right? But it all depends on the operator. It has nothing to do with the deck or the horsepower. It has everything to do with the operator, and I'm going to prove it even further. Remember I just mentioned to you about the motor? In this particular case, this is a Kohler motor, right? Kohler motor is in the neighborhood of being similar to a Briggs & Stratton. But the moving components of this is a good motor. It's a fantastic motor. I want to show you another motor. You see this Kawasaki motor? This is another fantastic motor. It's a 23 horsepower Kawasaki. This motor, treat it right, change the oil regularly, stay on top of your air filters, your oil filters, and keeping the engine clear of debris. This motor can last you for years. I mean, absolute years. But again, it depends on the operator, not the machine. Not the machine, but the operator. Let me show you the difference between a residential deck blowout. When I say blowout, where the grass shoots out from the deck, as opposed to a commercial deck blowout, right? where it ejects the grass, right, the lawn. So look at the differences between the two. Right now we're at the Craftsman, and can you see like the thickness of this sheet metal right here? It's kind of thin. The deck is kind of, you know, flimsy a little bit because it's designed for residential use, not necessarily in the field for heavy lawn care. But again, as I continuously say, it's not the machine, it's the operator. I could take this same lawnmower, do the exact same performance, get the same quality of cut between this Craftsman and a Scag. Let me show you another one. See the difference between the metal on this guy? It's heavy, it's heavy duty. It's heavy. It's a heavier steel, right? It's a heavier steel. It's built differently. See how large the difference is for this grass to shoot out? This is a heavier duty mower. The deck is heavy duty. See how it's braced down here? It's heavy duty, designed for lots of work, different types of grass conditions, lawn conditions, weeds, and all types of variety of grasses. But again, depending on the operator, you can do the exact same thing with the Craftsman as you can with this commercial grade mower. Let me further prove my point. All right, here we have the different levels of the deck, right? You have from 8 all the way down to 1, where you could really scrape the ground. So this is this is residential, not commercial, and it has 1 gas tank, right? As opposed to, let's go look at a John Deere. Same thing, right? 1 gas tank on this side. Some of the commercial grade zero turns have 2 gas tanks so that you can cut longer. Of course, you know, 2 gas tanks, you can do more work without having to fill up, right? The point I'm trying to make is I'm making a comparison between a residential mower to that of a commercial mower, that you're able to do the exact same performance depending on the operator. Let me further prove my point. Do you recall when I was showing you on the Craftsman how to adjust the blade that had the handle? Here you can see that this is kind of typical. You lift this handle up, shift, and the blade level can be chosen depending on how high or how low you want it to be, but you would adjust the blade level here. This is typically standard for commercial, right? So you have two indicators. You have the way the blade, the deck can be adjusted, and the thickness of the deck material. In terms of tires, this is a really nice tire. I like the thickness of the treads because depending on the state that you're in, I know Georgia and Texas, they have different grass types that has these thorny little stickers that grow in certain times of the year, and those thorny stickers, they can puncture your tire. You can have 15, 20, 30 little punches in your tire from these thorny stickers. I'm going to show you a picture of it as I'm talking about it, and they can create havoc on your tires. So a tip, this is what I typically do. I take the valve cap off, I deflate the tire, and I inflate the tire with flat tire repair, the gooey type. And I'll send a picture of that as well as a recommendation, right? I'm not an expert on tire flats, but I'm saying to you, this is what I did with my tires. I deflated the tires, I put in the flat repair, the gooky green stuff, and filled the tire up, and I didn't have flat tires, for a long period of time, even though my tires were filled with those sticky, thorny tires, right? I would do that to the back tire, and I would do that to my front tire, right? Deflate it, fill it up with the Gookie flat tire, and then fill the rest up with air, and now you have a tire that's almost flat proof, if I'm saying that right, where it doesn't get on a flat, right? And now you're able to continuously service the properties without having to worry about your tire getting on the flat every single day. Those little thorny things are all over the place on lawns, and by the time you finish cutting your grass, you can have hundreds of them on your tires, and they can cause a flat on your vehicle going from one property to the next. All right, now look at this commercial grade tire. A little bit larger in diameter, right? A little heavier duty, but it's subject to the same conditions as the Craftsman. It has a tube on the inside, and it has nice thick treads, but if you run into those thorny weeds, it's going to deflate this tire as well. So again, deflate it, fill it up with the sticky, gooey green stuff, the rest with air, and that depletes that type of issue. There is a tire on the market where they replace these rubber tires with the tubeless tires. They're just like one big continuous piece of rubber. I'll show you a picture of that as well. It's one big continuous rubber that no matter what goes into it, a nail, a screw, these tires do not go on a flat, right? So good tire, same difference with the Craftsman. Again, you have the deck adjuster right here. The deck adjuster, this kind of indicates a commercial grade mower where you adjust the depth, 3-inch, 2-inch, 1-inch, depending on the how low you want your grass to be cut. Now, price points. This is a $3,600 unit for a 54-inch deck. But let me point this out to you. This 54-inch deck is nice when you're in the front yard, but many of the properties that you're going to go to on residential lots are going to have a backyard, and the gate dimension on the fence headed to the backyard is 36. So this 54, although it's going to be wonderful on a corner lot in the front part of the yard, you can't just simply snatch these 54-inch decks in and out with a smaller deck. That's impossible. That's not impossible, but that's not recommended, right? Who does that? They don't carry different size decks. You carry different size mowers, right? So what you want to do is consider getting a lawnmower with a deck that can go through at least a 36-inch gate entrance. Otherwise, you're going to have to cut that grass with some other type of equipment or make some adjustments to that fence. That's another conversation that we can have, how to get access or gain access to a backyard that has a 36-inch opening and you have a 54 or larger deck, right? Okay, so now let's have a final piece of conversation. All right, so now on YouTube, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, and from my experience, I've cut over 5, 6, 7,000, a lot, right? I've cut a lot, in the thousands I've cut lawns. So I know a little bit about different types of lawns, right? Or different types of machines. The point I'm trying to make is, when the question is asked, what's the best type of lawnmower should I use in the property preservation business? I gave you two big pointers. One is I'm gonna choose a motor first, a lawnmower first by its motor. I'm gonna get a motor that I know has stood the test of time. You have the Kohler, you have the Skag, you have the Kawasaki, and these top motors are, and don't forget about the Briggs and Stratton. I mean, in my opinion, that's the patriarch of lawnmower motors, right? It's not the machine, it's the operator. You can get an expensive $15,000 Skag and not know how to use it on certain terrains and tear it up on the day that you bought it, cutting a lawn that has roots exposed all on the outside. So it's not the machine, it's the operator. You can get one of those green lawnmowers from Walmart and do the same level of cutting. When I say same level of cutting, do the same volume of cutting. It's gonna take you a lot longer with the same piece of equipment from Walmart. The point I'm trying to make is it's not the machine, it's the operator. Right, so I told you I had a Troy-Bilt, very similar to this Craftsman, right? On that Troy-Bilt, I cut thousands of yards, and the only thing that I ever had to change on that was two things. One, a battery that just used it up. It was I had it for like 7 years, and it went through 3-4 winters. That was damn good. And the hot summers in the state of Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, and California with extreme temperatures, that was damn good. I got real good life out of my battery, right? My original battery. It lasted a very long time. Here's how I made my equipment last. And this is something I don't think I can teach you. You have to either have this innate in you, you already have this ingrained in you, and you'll know if the shoe fits, wear it, right? If you're the type of person who just tears shit up, there's no piece of equipment that's going to be good for you. If you just tear stuff up because you don't take care of it, that's just what's going to happen. Whether you go get a Skag or a Craftsman or a Troy-Bilt. But if you are the type of person who takes care of your stuff, every single time I cut a lawn, I pulled it into the driveway and I blew all the grass debris out from my pulleys. You know what the pulleys are? The pulleys are what turns the blades, right? Inside of them, when you cut in certain grass and they have long grass blades, that grass over time will wrap around that pulley and choke it. And now your motor is working 3 times harder trying to push that pulley around to perform the work that you want it to do. But because you didn't take the time to unravel and blow off all that excess grass, now your motor is going to have an early reduction. It's gonna die on you. It's gonna burn up, right? You're gonna blow the head, or it's gonna overheat, or something like that's gonna happen. That can happen whether you're on a Skag or on a Craftsman or on a Troy-Bilt. All right? So, YouTube, I have a question for you. When you're talking about a residential lawnmower to that of a professional lawnmower, a higher grade lawnmower, a Skag and a Craftsman residential, how many yards per day? If I told you I'm going to be doing X number of yards per day, what level of lawnmower would you recommend for me? If I were cutting 5 yards per day, or if I were cutting 15 yards per day? And the typical lot size would be 80 wide by 150 deep. What type of lawnmower would you recommend that I have? A Craftsman like this with a 24 horsepower motor, or a Skag with a 24 horsepower motor? Which one would you recommend for me? That's a question. Leave your comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion. I'd love to hear any pushback or anyone who wants some smoke to tell me what I've just said is BS. All right, so I'm challenging you. how many yards per day, if I'm cutting, would you suggest that I need a residential mower or a commercial mower, right? Residential or commercial? Because I'm here to tell you, I cut 15 yards per day, 80 by 150 for 7 years with the same mower. So now what? What? Now what? Oh, the days, man, the days. I put a lot of hours on these kind of mowers. All right, YouTube, that's all I got. I'd like to hear from you. Leave your comment below.